I was homeless for years. Sleep in subway, stay up all night, this park. I was homeless for a long time, man, for a long time.
Taurus Smith is one of the Watts 15, a group of 15 men who had their drug convictions overturned in Chicago's first ever mass exoneration. But Smith's exoneration comes after years of being unemployed and homeless because of that wrongful conviction.
And I had to grow up quick, 17 years old. I'm laying in Ellis Park on the playground, on the sliding board. That's why I had to sleep, because my mother had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go because what they did to me.
Former Chicago Police Sergeant Ronald Watts was convicted and imprisoned for extorting money from a drug dealer who turned out to be an FBI informant. But local reports and citizens who dealt with Watts say he was shaking down drug dealers and framing people for more than a decade. Taurus Smith knows that story firsthand.
He was a gang member / drug dealer with a badge.
Independently will come to us and say, have you seen Training Day? It was just like that. And it was just like that.
Joshua Tepfer is a lawyer with the Exoneration Project. He represented Smith and others in the exoneration case. Watts' team planted drugs on Smith, and he was ultimately convicted on narcotics charges. Before accepting a plea deal, Smith filed a complaint with Chicago's Office of Professional Standards.
And his mom tried to file a complaint, took Taurus to file a complaint. And the next day, immediately retaliating, Watts found out and came and threatened Taurus again.
He had 2 guns. He had his service weapon on it. He had another gun. Like this grown man shit you doing.
He was a kid, and Watts just rounded him up and planted evidence on him, and he was spit out through the system with a conviction, put him in jail.
Smith and his mother were kicked out of their home. Because Smith was now a convicted felon, his mother was no longer eligible for their Chicago Housing Authority voucher.
Cold, nowhere to go, in a park, or walking up into White Couch, have nowhere to go. It was hard. It's still hard now.
Watts ultimately served 22 months in prison, but was in and out of jail well before Smith had his case examined by a judge.
I don't really feel he dealt with it, because he 20-something months and he messed my livelihood up for the rest of my life. I couldn't do half the stuff I wanted to do, couldn't go to college, couldn't get a job, because they always went back to use a convicted felon.
Wiretaps, there was federal investigations, there was, whistleblowing police officers, it was all there. How could they let it happen? And even if they let it happen, how could they not go back and fix it later?
It's been a long process, but the state is finally taking steps to fix these men's lives. The city is expected to grant all 15 exonerees a certificate of innocence, which will erase the felony convictions from their permanent records, give them the opportunity to sue the city, and more importantly, help them move on with their lives.
I won't care if it's McDonald's, Popeyes, Foreman Mills. I just want to work. I just want to be like a normal person, because I was robbed of that. I was robbed of that.
Tepfer says there are at least 500 more convictions involving Watts and his team that need to be vetted for legitimacy.